It looks like we are live, so hopefully this is working this week. Welcome a little bit belatedly to this week's midweek rest and reset meditation. So I combine hand gesture, and this week I'm going to do this classic, hands clasped. If you are feeling brave about it, you can do it the way that feels less comfortable. Give yourself a little bit of sensory stimulation that way. So with mudras or hand gestures, I'm kind of opening it up because I can't always find if there is reference to a mudra with a specific name for a specific hand gesture that I want to explore. So the idea with the hand gestures is to give our hands a chance to rest and also to be aware of how much tension we might be holding in our hands without even realizing it. So you can like squeeze your hands really tight together and you can relax them completely. And it basically looks the same from the outside. So if you're watching me squeeze and then relax, there's very little visual difference, but it feels really different in your fingers when you do that, right? So this idea of being able to hold a shape with our fingers as relaxed as possible and being aware of how much tension or lack of tension we're holding in our hands is a good first step for starting to develop and build our interoceptive perception. Interoception is our sensory perception of what is happening inside ourselves. And this is the bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. So that's where we start, is with this gesture. This week, it's this hand clasp gesture. And I'm kind of just holding it in front of my chest as I sit. If you're lying down, you could rest on your chest or maybe on your lap. If you're walking, it might work better to hold it on your chest, just for the stability of your arms so you don't get so distracted. And as you settle in, as you find the place where you want to sit or lay down or walk, or maybe you're stuck on a commute and don't have a lot of choice about that, but find a place where you can be stable and a little bit settled for the next 15 to 20 minutes. You need your tea or your coffee or your juice. Feel free to have that at hand, nearby. And we'll start moving into using logic of the heart to process and take a step back and gather up all of the energy and resources we might need to move through this middle of the week. Sometimes people call Wednesdays hump day because it's long, right? You've got the week started, but it's not close to being finished yet. That was a common thing when I was in college for people to call Wednesday hump day. So when you're settled, you can close your eyes or keep them open, whichever is easier for you. But begin by bringing what you've done so far this week into the forefront of your mind. And let all of the feelings that you have, all of those, maybe they're good, maybe they're bad, it doesn't matter. You don't need to judge whether your reactions are good or bad. They're just your reactions. So the things that you did, bring those things into your consciousness and let all of the feelings and maybe all of the self-talk, I did good, I did bad, I should do better, why can't I do this? Why is this always so hard? All of those thoughts that you might have about what you've accomplished, what you didn't accomplish. Let all of that come forward and hold it. And then do the same with what is coming up in the rest of your week. Maybe you have a deadline and you're anxious and stressed about it. Maybe you have a meeting or a social event that you're looking forward to. Maybe you're looking forward to a class or to doing something with your family. Whatever it is that's coming towards you in the next few days, let that come into your consciousness as well. And again, let all of those feelings also be present without judging them. All of the excitement, anxiety, hope, fear, whatever those feelings may be. You don't even need to know what they are, just invite them to be here. And breathe all of that in, all of that chaos, right? Maybe it's all jumbled together, the thoughts and the feelings and what's happened and what has to be done next. And maybe you don't have all of the details because it isn't in a nice, pretty to-do list. Or maybe you need a to-do list and you're afraid of it or scared to get started on tackling that organizational aspect. All of that is okay. So hold it in your consciousness and using the sensation of this hand gesture in your physical body, use that as an anchor to look through your inner self into your core and find where in your body are you holding all of the energy of all of those thoughts and feelings. And when you found the where, observe. Just observe. Does it have a shape? The energy that's holding all of these feelings in you. Does it have color? Maybe there's texture or temperature. Maybe there's movement. Maybe there's more than one substance associated. I'll give you an example of mine for today. So pause. Pause your ears for a moment if that might be distracting for you as you're looking for your own. But if as an example might be helpful, what I am noticing in myself today are these sort of twin crystal clusters starting a little bit below my kidneys and going up and through the kidneys, up towards my ribs and towards the rest of my internal organs. And they've got a little bit of a gray of that, the outer shell of the crystals, but they're a white blue. So the inside is more white and the edges are more blue. They're very shiny. They're also very large. Each crystal is probably 2 or 3 inches long, maybe a centimeter from side to side. And it's kind of a turquoisey electric-ish blue, a little cobalt at the edges. But there's also this kind of cold white light shining from inside these crystals. So for me, that is my multisensory observation of the shape and the location that best represents the energy that I happen to be holding about all my thoughts and feelings about my week. So take a moment, find your own, find where it is. Notice the shape and the color, texture, and density. If there's movement, if there's temperature, maybe there's sound. And when you have a complete, clear imagination of this multi-sensory, possibly an abstract sculpture, possibly a crystal like me or a plant or whatever you happen to observe, you can move it from inside of yourself, wherever you found it, and place it with love and gratitude outside of yourself, in front of yourself. Perhaps you have an altar that you imagine in front and outside of yourself. You can place it there or into an offering basket. Or maybe you create a mirror image of yourself with this in you, in front of you, and let it move, let the energy move out as you move the thing out. Sometimes it's sticky, Sometimes it wants to bounce right back in. Sometimes a short, intense movement works better. Sometimes a slow, gentle nudge. Sometimes you have to be a little firm to keep it out. My crystals are being stubborn. They want to stay right where they are. Sometimes, if it's being stubborn, you can move yourself backwards so that it stays where it is, but then it becomes in front of you as you've moved back. That seems to have worked for me today, moving myself backwards and leaving the crystals where they were. And really take a moment to make sure that the energy is moved out as well, right? So sometimes there's an empty space for a moment inside of you where that energy was. Sometimes a new thing rises up immediately. Sometimes it takes a minute. So turn your focus inward and just observe what's happening in your inner self in response to having separated from that first chunk of energy. So for me today, I'm noticing sort of Kelly green light in the backs of my hips. But I'm also noticing like a vortex of red and black swirling in my lower belly. And there's it's almost like a reflection of that red and black vortex that's black and a little bit of gray with a flick of yellow every now and then that's up closer to where my head and my neck meet in the back. So that's a lot of different things going on, which sometimes it happens. It's okay. It's okay if you just find one simple thing. It's okay if you have lots of things going on. The point is to just notice what's there and notice the sensory qualities that it has. And once again, when you have that complete observation, when you've noticed all the details that there are to observe, move that imagination with the energy it's holding all the way outside of you, onto that same altar or offering basket as before. So I have 3 things, and I'm going to move them one at a time. I move this red vortex thing in my belly first, and then the one near my head, and the green light bits by my hips. And it's okay to move the energy as you breathe out. That helps you. Just make sure you're not breathing it back in when you inhale. And again, when the energy is all the way out, when you've freed yourself from it, you've gifted it to the universe, turn your focus inward again. And again, observe what shows up now. Now that you've got that second thing out as well as the first. Do you have more layers to work through? Or are you noticing something slightly different showing up? I'm noticing it's like pitch black, but it's got this warm, restful quality to it somehow. It's in my lower back, kind of bridging from my hips to my ribs. And there's some kind of a pillar supporting it that goes through my lower belly, from my root chakra to my solar plexus. It doesn't really have a color. It's just like I don't know, if you took space and made it dense, maybe that would be a good way to describe it. And with this third piece, again, we can set it out with love and gratitude again. Sometimes that love and gratitude helps make the separation, the letting go, easier. Sometimes it feels like we're giving something up or sacrificing something or ripping our insides open, bleeding out. But that's okay. We can separate from this with love and gratitude for all that it's helped us to do. We can give it as a gift back to the world. And let the wisdom of the universe take all these pieces that we've separated from and harmonize them for us. And again, we can look inward and see what arises this time. Maybe it's something completely different if you're working through more than one layer. Or maybe it's a slightly more detailed version. That third thing. I've noticed this pillar that I mentioned before is now taller. It's a little bit more slender and a little bit more flexible somehow. Going from my root chakra to my heart chakra this time. So that's the built-in check for if you've found the empathy substance, this neutral but compassionate, centered, balanced, supportive state of being. And it shows up differently every time. But those qualities of stability and calm and centered, and like you have this reservoir of energy below you and are just held perfectly aligned with your own inner self. Those qualities usually are always present when you find the empathy substance, no matter what it might look like this time. Let yourself notice what those sensory qualities feel like to you. That stability, that balance, that centeredness, that sense that you know yourself, that you are yourself, that you're present in and with yourself, that you know yourself. Because you do. You know yourself so deeply. And we spend so much time in our everyday lives fighting against our own self-knowledge because we're trying to fit in, or we're trying to do what we think other people want us to do. We can rest here with ourselves for a moment. And let that empathy substance be a foundation, a resting place, an inner grounding. And let that connection with yourself, let that bring the energy, the rejuvenation, the inner strength. Let it fill all of you as you stay grounded in this inner balanced place. And when you're ready, look once again at all of the things that have occurred so far this week, the things you've done, the things that have happened. And notice what you can perceive differently. Notice if you're less reactive. Maybe you understand the situation better. Maybe you can accept that something that happened was not about you. Maybe you can accept that something that happened was about you. And looking forward to the next few days, the rest of this week. How can you bring this inner state of balance, of equilibrium, of empathy? How can you bring this into all of the things that you need to do over the next few days? Maybe there's a less difficult path forward. Or maybe you can use this meditation again to build courage to tackle a challenge. Maybe you shift excitement into joy. Maybe you have a little more self-compassion too. Sometimes that's the hardest form of compassion, self-compassion. You can take a moment to stretch out your hands, your arms, maybe roll your shoulders a little bit. Come back to your body. Maybe take some notes about your experience, about your insights from your little review preview exercise. Maybe you have questions. This logic of the heart meditation is, in my opinion, the single most practical meditation I have ever encountered. It, you know, we're working with everything from the whole week during this midweek rest and reset, but it's okay to pick just one thing at a time. So you can work with a sensation, you can work with an emotion, you can work with a thought, And this process is it's rooted in alchemical concepts, but it's also grounded in physics. So if you think about complementary colors and the color wheel and how the light hits the back of our eyes, and you look at, a red circle, for example, and then you look at a white wall and you see like a green or a turquoise circle, our our eyes are actually creating a chemical response to that red light in order to keep our retinas from getting burned by that light. So it's a protective reaction. But we don't really see that green circle until we stop seeing the red. Um, which is why with this logic of the heart meditation, we do it 3 times. The first time is, the equivalent of that red circle. Um, it's the thoughts and the feelings that we can perceive consciously. And we separate from that. And then we have this complementary piece. And until we've separated from that first piece, we can't even observe that complement yet. But we have to separate from the complement as well, because if we don't, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, because the complement can feel warm and fuzzy. It can feel really wonderful and awesome to stay there, especially if you start with a yucky emotion, right? Um, but if you don't separate from that complement, you haven't really freed yourself from your reaction in completeness. It kind of like a magnet, if you keep that complement in, it pulls the first thing back. So separating from both is important. And that's how we find that inner peace, that stability. Um, and maybe next week I'll talk a little bit more about how this meditation is connected to concepts like non-judgment and non-attachment without losing that compassion piece, right? Inner peace is not a lack of emotion. It's not a state of apathy. Apathy is also neutral, but it's emotionless, right? It's robotic. Empathy is its own complement, which is why when you separate from it and then look back, you get a more detailed version, which is how you can check for yourself if you're really there. There are often situations where you need to go through 8 or more separations before you find the empathy substance. And that's okay. It takes however many layers it takes. But this empathy, it's compassion towards ourselves, it's compassion towards others, and it gives us a lot of freedom with how we connect with ourselves and with other people. There's a lot out there about people being empathic and getting stuck in other people's feelings. And this meditation is a really excellent way to get unstuck from other people's feelings. And this true empathy state it has a lot of freedom in it. So you can choose to investigate somebody else's feelings, but you don't get stuck there if you've done this meditation as a preparatory step, which is what I think I'll wrap up with today, because logic of the heart is wonderful by itself. but it's also helpful in combination with any other meditation technique. Anytime that you find an instruction to clear your mind, you can use this as a how to accomplish that, right? Most forms of meditation don't really tell you how to clear your mind or how to separate from those distracting thoughts that might show up or um, the sounds that are coming at you um, from your environment. So hopefully, hopefully you have a more grounded, calm reservoir of energy to get you through your week, as well as a technique that you can use whenever you feel overwhelmed or stressed or emotional, or you just need to clear your mind and get back to this calm place. I have a bunch of resources about this meditation that are also free. This is the sort of foundation upon which all of the methods that I teach is built. And it's so incredibly helpful in every situation I've ever been in, because we always have thoughts and we always have feelings, right? So I'm very passionate about helping anyone who chooses to try this meditation to learn it and see how it goes. It can take some practice. It's not, it's a visualization meditation, but it's more than just visual, right? And it can take some practice to let your feelings be present. We live in a culture that doesn't really give us permission to have emotions um, outside of some very particular, right? You're allowed to be happy, but if you're pretending to be happy because that's all we're allowed to express, are you really happy? Or are you holding in all of those complimentary reactions to being happy until they explode? Um, so hopefully you got something out of this, whether you were listening in live or catching the replay. Um, I will try to put the links to all of the resources in the comments or the description. I'll figure it out. Baby steps with tech, right? um, so I hope to see you again next week, and hopefully I will be faster about getting the live stream buttons all clicked, so we can start at 8 and do our few minutes of settling in and all of that. 8 Pacific time. I'm in California, so Pacific time for me. Yeah, I think this first live stream might have actually worked. So, yay. And we'll be back next week, like I said. And feel free to ask questions. There's one of the resources as a way to get the questions to me faster than just commenting, but you're welcome to comment as well. And I hope you have a fulfilling rest of your week, a rejuvenating and empowering rest of your week. I'll see you next time.